How much trust do you put in an airplane every time you buckle up for a flight? It's a question we rarely think about, isn't it? As we settle into our seats, buckle our belts, we're putting our lives in the hands of unseen engineers, mechanics, and manufacturers. One of the giants in the field, a name synonymous with air travel, is Boeing. Their aircraft have carried billions across the globe, their wings a symbol of reliability and safety. But imagine, as you're soaring above the clouds, that the very wings you're trusting are flawed. Unthinkable, right? In the case of the Boeing 737 MAX, that unthinkable scenario became a shocking reality. A jewel in Boeing's crown, this aircraft was discovered to have flaws that could and did lead to disaster. But what happens when that trust is shattered by the discovery of deadly flaws? The first inkling of trouble came with the crash of Lion Air Flight 610 in October 2018. This tragedy took place just off the coast of Indonesia, snuffing out 189 lives in an instant. Initial reactions ranged from shock to disbelief, as Boeing's reputation for safety and reliability began to falter. The world watched in horror as investigators began to sift through the wreckage. As the black boxes were recovered, a chilling revelation came to light. The Boeing 737 MAX aircraft was not as infallible as once believed. The culprit? A little-known system called the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, or MCAS for short. Designed to make the aircraft easier to handle, the MCAS was instead found to have a serious flaw. It could forcefully nose down the plane if it thought the aircraft was stalling. And most alarmingly, it could do this even when the plane was flying perfectly fine. The pilots of Lion Air Flight 610 wrestled with their brand new jet, not knowing that the MCAS was fighting against them, pushing them down towards the sea. Just 5 months later, the unthinkable happened again. Ethiopian Airlines Flight 302, another Boeing 737 MAX, crashed shortly after takeoff, claiming the lives of all 157 people on board. The MCAS was again implicated, and the world began to question the safety of the 737 MAX. This led to the grounding of the entire 737 MAX fleet worldwide, an unprecedented move that shook the aviation industry. In the wake of these twin tragedies, a hard truth emerged. These were not isolated incidents, but systemic failures. And at the heart of it all was the MCAS, a system that was meant to safeguard lives, but instead ended up taking them. 2 crashes, hundreds of lives lost, and a company's reputation in tatters. The flaws of the 737 MAX had been uncovered, and the world was left reeling, questioning how such a disaster could have been allowed to happen. As investigations commenced, the world watched with bated breath. The trust once placed in the wings of Boeing was now shrouded in uncertainty, and the call for answers echoed across the globe. The Federal Aviation Administration, the FAA, was one of the many bodies that took up the mantle to unravel the truth behind the 737 MAX's fatal flaws. The investigation was no small task. It was about more than just an airplane. It was about the lives lost, the trust broken, and the safety measures that had seemingly fallen short. The spotlight quickly fell on one individual, a former Boeing executive named Mark Faulkner. The grand stage of justice saw Faulkner indicted for fraud, a serious charge that tied directly into the 737 MAX's certification process. The allegations were grave. Faulkner was accused of deceiving the very body that was meant to ensure the safety of our skies, the FAA. But the deceit didn't stop there. The indictment claimed that Faulkner had knowingly withheld crucial information about the Maneuvering Characteristics Augmentation System, the MCAS. This wasn't just about omission, it was about commission. Faulkner was not just accused of holding back information, but of providing false information, all, it seemed, to avoid the cost of additional pilot training. The implications of this deception were catastrophic. The alleged design flaws that Faulkner had contributed to were directly linked to the fatal crashes of the 737 MAX. The world watched as the investigation unveiled a tragic tale of cost over lives. Yet the defense proclaimed Faulkner's innocence, claiming he was being made a scapegoat. The court of public opinion, meanwhile, was divided. Some called for broader accountability within Boeing, while others pinned the blame squarely on Faulkner. The quest for answers uncovered a web of deception and irresponsibility. Yet, as the curtain fell on this act of the investigation, many questions remained unanswered. The world waited, its eyes fixed on Boeing, hoping for justice, and more importantly, for change. In the aftermath of the investigations, Boeing has had to face some harsh realities. The fallout was significant, with financial losses running into billions and a tarnished reputation to mend. Yet, it was not just Boeing that was affected. The Federal Aviation Administration, the watchdog of the skies, also found itself under scrutiny. As a result, both Boeing and the FAA have made significant changes. Boeing has introduced new safety measures and updated pilot training, while the FAA has made amendments to its aircraft certification process. But what does this mean for the future of air travel and aircraft manufacturing? Well, it's likely to result in a more stringent regulatory environment, with greater scrutiny on aircraft design and manufacturing processes. It may also accelerate the push towards more automated flight systems as technology continues to advance. However, one thing is clear. The Boeing 737 MAX saga has highlighted the need for greater transparency and accountability in the aviation industry. After all, when we step onto an airplane, we're not just trusting the pilots and the airline, we're trusting the manufacturers who built the aircraft. As we continue to trust in the wings that carry us, we must also demand accountability and transparency from those who build them.